Imagine waking up one morning and the world you know no longer exists. The United States is no longer the leading superpower. The dollar has lost its value. Technology, the economy, even your personal freedom are now under the control of a foreign nation. But the most shocking part? This transformation isn't happening through war or revolutions, but silently in the shadows, using data, money, and artificial intelligence. As you read this sentence, the world order is shifting faster than you can imagine. The question is no longer if the old system will collapse, but when, and more importantly, who will decide what you see, what you think, and how you live in the future? Is it already too late to stop this, or is there still a chance to turn the tide? Stay tuned, because the truth about this invisible power struggle will impact you more than you think. The new superpower. Who will rule the world in 2050? The world is in the midst of an epoch-defining power struggle. One superpower is fighting for survival, while new giants are rising unstoppably. The critical question is, who will take control in the coming decades? Will it be the United States, which has dominated the world for decades? Or China, which is claiming the throne with economic and technological supremacy? Or are we heading toward an entirely new global order where no single nation holds absolute power? To understand what's coming, we need to look back. After the Cold War, there was only one uncontested superpower, the United States, a nation with an unparalleled military presence, economic dominance, and the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. But with China's rise, a new race for global supremacy began. And this race is not being fought with traditional weapons, it's being waged through technology, economic power, and strategic alliances. China is taking a completely different approach compared to the U.S. While Washington has spent decades engaging in wars and imposing sanctions, Beijing focuses on economic expansion and long-term influence. The Belt and Road Initiative is the largest infrastructure project in human history. Billions of dollars are being invested in trade routes, ports, roads, and high-speed railways connecting entire continents. But that's just the beginning. China is not only investing in steel and concrete, it is securing something far more valuable: control over data, resources, and strategic partnerships. Meanwhile, the United States is facing a monumental challenge. While China is building megacities at record speed and modernizing its technological infrastructure, the U.S. is struggling with political divisions, economic uncertainty, and a declining global reputation. The key question is, can the reigning superpower hold its lead, or will it be overtaken by a new one? Whoever controls technology controls the future. The battle between superpowers is most evident in artificial intelligence and quantum computing. China has invested billions in AI research, making breakthroughs in facial recognition, autonomous driving, and mass surveillance. Meanwhile, the U.S. is trying to maintain its lead through aggressive sanctions on Chinese tech companies. But one innovation could change everything: quantum computing. This revolutionary technology could render current encryption systems obsolete, manipulate financial markets, and force entire nations into economic dependency. Whoever develops a fully operational quantum AI first won't just dominate the internet, but will control the global economy. And this is where the real battle for the future is taking place. Who will reach the breakthrough first? Money, the other weapon in this geopolitical war. For decades, the U.S. dollar has been the undisputed global reserve currency, but new economic alliances are now challenging this dominance. More and more nations, including Russia, China, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia, are working to bypass the dollar in international trade. The BRICS nations are developing an alternative world currency that could reshape the global financial system. China is also pursuing an even more radical strategy: the introduction of a central bank digital currency, CBDC. The digital yuan is already in circulation in several cities, allowing the Chinese government to monitor every transaction in real time. While cash and cryptocurrencies still play a major role in the U.S., China is testing a future where the government has full control over all financial transactions. What does this mean for the global economy? Will the dollar lose its dominance? And if so, what consequences will this have for the Western world? The game is changing. The United States is struggling with internal challenges, China is expanding its technological and economic dominance, and new players like India and Russia are striving to strengthen their positions on the global stage. But the biggest question remains: who will rule the world in 2050? Will the U.S. defend its position at the top? Will China become the new global leader? Or are we heading toward a multipolar world where no single nation holds absolute power? The real battle is yet to come. Technology and economics are only part of the power struggle, but far greater factors will ultimately decide the future of world order. Who will control the energy of the future? Who will dominate outer space? And what hidden agendas are truly shaping the outcome? The race for global supremacy is far from over. The future of money. Who will dominate the global economy? Money has always been one of the most powerful tools for building empires or bringing them to collapse. For decades, the US dollar has been the undisputed global reserve currency, but that could change faster than many people think. China and the BRICS nations have started bypassing the dollar as a means of payment. More and more countries are trading oil, commodities, and goods in alternative currencies. The United States has secured its economic dominance for decades through the power of the dollar. But what happens when the world suddenly has a real alternative? Perhaps the most radical shift is coming from central bank digital currencies. While the US is still debating cryptocurrencies, China has already introduced a digital currency, the digital yuan. This allows the state to monitor every transaction in real time, automatically collect taxes, and even block payments. What happens if this form of digital control spreads worldwide? If cash disappears entirely and every transaction can be tracked, is this the dawn of a new financial system or the greatest control mechanism ever created? The US is desperately trying to defend its financial power, but the reality is clear. The dollar is losing influence. The question is no longer if the system will change, but who will ultimately benefit from it. The race for space. Who owns the universe? While world powers clash on Earth, the next great race is already unfolding in space. But this time, it's not just about prestige like in the days of the moon landing, it's about something far bigger: resources, military dominance, and ultimately control over the entire planet. China has declared that it intends to send humans to the moon by 2030. The US has similar plans with its Artemis program. But what's really behind this rush? Why are these superpowers so determined to establish lunar bases? The answer lies deep beneath the surface of our celestial neighbor, helium-3. This rare isotope could be used as a clean, highly efficient fuel for fusion reactors. Scientists estimate that just a few tons of helium-3 could power the entire Earth for decades. Controlling the moon could mean controlling the energy economy of the future. But the race for space doesn't stop at the moon. Private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin are ushering in a new era of space exploration, and China has already begun exploring ways to colonize Mars. What happens if one of these nations establishes undisputed dominance in space? If a single state can control global internet access via satellites or even shut other nations off from the grid? Is this just science fiction or a secret strategy already being pushed forward behind closed doors? Secret strategies and hidden agendas. Who's pulling the strings? There's a question that many don't dare to ask. Who really decides which superpower will win in the end? Political decisions often seem to be made by presidents, prime ministers, or government agencies. But behind the scenes, there are networks of elites who have been shaping the global order for decades. Why do powerful politicians suddenly disappear from the public eye? Why are certain technologies promoted while others are deliberately suppressed? Why is it so easy for some nations to finance wars while others fall into economic dependency? Many believe that institutions like the World Economic Forum, WEF, the Bilderberg Group, or other secret circles are already deciding which technologies will be allowed and which won't. That a hidden agenda is being followed behind closed doors, one that is designed to steer the world in a specific direction. But is this just a conspiracy theory, or is there more to it? What role do supranational organizations really play? And most importantly, what are their true goals? If the current power struggle isn't just between the US and China, but is actually being controlled on a much higher level, does that mean the outcome has already been decided? The future of warfare. Is the next war already happening? When people think of war, they often imagine soldiers, tanks, and bombs. But the next major conflict will look entirely different. It's already happening, and most people don't even realize it. Cyber warfare, digital surveillance, and AI-driven weapon systems have shifted the battlefield into the digital realm. Today, nations can cripple enemy infrastructure with targeted cyber attacks, manipulate elections, or even destabilize entire economies, all without firing a single missile. China is leading the development of autonomous weapon systems that can identify and attack targets on their own. The US is leveraging artificial intelligence for strategic warfare, and Russia is heavily investing in cyber attacks and digital warfare. But there is an even greater threat: biological warfare. What if future wars are not fought with bullets but with invisible weapons, genetically engineered viruses designed to target specific populations, technologies that enable DNA-based attacks? It sounds like a dystopian nightmare, but is it really that far off? If it's already possible to create artificial organisms today, why wouldn't it be possible to develop biological weapons with surgical precision? How will the world look when wars are no longer fought with tanks, but with algorithms, viruses, and autonomous drones? Is the next Great War already underway, just unnoticed by the public? Who will control the world in 2050? The U.S. is fighting to maintain its global dominance. China is steadily rising as the next superpower. But the real battle isn't just between nations, it's happening in the domains that shape our daily lives: technology, economics, space, warfare, and the control of information. The big question remains: who will ultimately hold the reins of power? Do you think China will take the #1 spot? Will the U.S. manage to hold on to its position? Is it possible that an entirely new superpower will emerge, or are we heading into an era where no one has absolute control anymore? Which superpower will win, or are we on the brink of a completely new world order? Drop your country in the comments.